Hi everybody, Pastor Trent here, Pleasant Point Community Church. Yesterday was such a good day of worship with you guys. I enjoy it so much every time we get to gather together as the body of believers and get through scripture, get through some songs and really glorify God while we do that. Let's go ahead and do another Sunday recap and weekly announcement video. Yesterday, we looked at the theme passage for our series of Faith That Works. And this series here really culminates by this question that James asks in verse 14. He says, "What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but don't show it by your actions?" Really, we need to make sure that we understand here that James is not talking about a works-based salvation. Paul in the book of Romans was very clear that salvation is by grace through faith and not by works. And that's what we believe. Salvation only comes by grace through faith and not works. So when James is mentioning works here, he's not saying this is a works-based salvation that we need to work toward, but rather, now that we have salvation, what do we need to do in order to be obedient to God? And that's the heart and what we have to keep in mind as we go through this passage here. So James continues on in his letter here, and he says, suppose that a brother or sister comes up to you and says, "I need help." And he asks, what good is it if all you do is say, "Oh, I'll be praying for you. Hopefully you'll have some luck finding what you need," and then kind of walking away? James says, what good is that? Well, we know it's not very good, is it? He continues on and says, you see, faith isn't enough. It says, unless it produces good deeds, your faith is dead. It is useless. And that's kind of what that illustration symbolizes. That person would have been better off going to talk to a rock and say, "Hey, rock, I need some help. Can you help me?" It would have gotten the same exact response, wouldn't it? Now, James continues on here and he says, he talks about the faith of demons. And he says, demons believe that God is the only one true God. We could sit here and we could talk about the truths of Christmas. We could talk about the truths of Easter. And a demon would say, you know what? All of that is true. I agree with all that stuff. And James is equivocating this, and he's saying the people who don't show their faith by their deeds have the same type of faith as what a demon has. That's not good. In fact, James says you're foolish if that's the type of faith you have. You're foolish. Can't you see that faith without good deeds, without works, without actions, without obedience to God is useless? And so then he brings up Abraham and he brings up Rahab the prostitute and how both of those two people vastly different throughout Scripture. One was the father of many nations. One was not the father of many nations, the father of a great nation. And one was a prostitute. Completely different types of people. And yet, Scripture constantly goes back to them to be examples of what it means to have faith. Real faith. Acting faith. Abraham believed in God, and then he proved that he believed in God by taking his son Isaac up the mountain to be the sacrifice, trusting that God would provide a good sacrifice. And then Rahab, the prostitute, also believed in God, and then showed that she had faith when she hid the spies, and she took the spies and she hid them, and then she was able to get them out of Jericho before the battle began, and that's what kept her safe. So it was their demonstrations of faith that we see there in those two examples. And then James continues on and he talks about, he says, so you see, we are shown to be right with God by what we do and not faith alone. Again, going back to this idea that saving faith, understanding that we have been saved by grace through faith, leads to works. It leads to being obedient to God. And James ends this in verse 26. He says, just as the body without breath is dead, so is faith dead without the works, without good works. And that's the encouragement that we had to leave with at church yesterday, was we need to do some introspection here. Does my life show the faith that I claim to have? There has to be evidence. I can't just sit back and say, I've received salvation by grace through faith. That doesn't do it. That's not enough. I've been saved without works, yes. But now that I have been saved, I need to be obedient to God and do what God has called me to do. And that's the challenge that I have for you. Don't sit here and think, well, I sure hope so-and-so hears this message because they're pretty fruitless in their life. That's not what James is trying to get at here. James wants you to look at yourself and look at your life and see, how are you being obedient to God? And if you aren't, then maybe it's time to say, you know what, God, I'm surrendering my life to you. I want you to be the king of my life. I want to be obedient to you. I want to submit to you and surrender my life to you completely. And we're going to continue on the book of James here in the next couple of weeks, and I'm so excited for what God is going to bring out to us. Let's look at some announcements. I shared on Sunday that on March 1st, we're going to do our fellowship dinner, but it's going to look a little bit different. Instead of doing it here at the church building, we're going to go down there to the school building and celebrate Gordon and Jan Jones, who are celebrating 50 years of marriage this year. That's incredible. We live in a culture that gets excited when a celebrity couple breaks up after 5 years, and they say, well, they had a good run. So excited for them. They did such a great job. 5 years. Wow, that's incredible. Really, that's sad. We have an example here. We have several examples here of members of our church, of our brothers and sisters who have been married for 50 plus years. And we're going to celebrate another one of them this upcoming on March 1st. So plan on doing that. The family has asked that all we do as a church is bring some sides, bring some salads, and they'll furnish the rest of the meal for us. And that's incredible. I'm so thankful for them. So let's plan on doing that on March 1st. The other announcements were, of course, keep VBS in mind if you're interested in helping out serving there. That'll be at the end of June, beginning of July time. We'll make some more announcements as that comes along. And then Homeward Trail Bible Camp. I think I said it right that time. That's coming up here soon. Now's the time to register. They're already starting to fill up a little bit. If you need any help with that, we've got 2 camps going so far. 3rd through 6th grade, and then 6th through 9th grade, and they're on different weeks. But we're going to help get kids down there, bust them down if you need us to do that. Whatever we can do to help, we'll do. I believe that's it. I'm so excited as God continues to provide some amazing weather for us. It's February, and I'm out here in a t-shirt without any snow, and it's beautiful. I'm excited for that. God is so good. But God's going to continue to work through us as we get into His Word. He's going to tear down some walls and continue to show us the grace that we need in order to serve Him well. And that's what we need to do. We need to serve God well. So until next Sunday, love you guys. I'll be praying for you all this week. And go in grace and peace.